Hi, welcome back to Movie Review Mom. Thanks for spending a few minutes with me while I talk about movies. So be sure and like the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and visit our Facebook group where we love talking about movies and sharing funny memes and stuff about movies. Anyway, today the movie I'm reviewing is Fantasy Island. This movie is rated PG-13. It's an hour and 50 minutes. And the Movie Review Mom grade I'm giving it sadly is a D for just pretty doggone dumb. But first, I'll give you a quick overview and point out some tips for parents, some things I like, some things I didn't like, and some themes that are worth talking about. So, in a quick nutshell, what's going to be the worst movie of 2020? I think we might have found it. It's certainly the worst one so far. I mean, it's only February, but I was so sad to see the wonderful 1970s TV show, Fantasy Island, turned into this warped freak show. They're calling it a reimagining of the TV show for a horror genre. But so, how about a remake of the actual show, which I really loved as a little girl? I never saw the 1990s remake, but I heard that that one was pretty bad. Blumhouse made it even worse. The only mystery is how this movie made it to the theater without some more edits and some reworks. It really could have used some help. Now, some quick tips for parents. First of all, there's lots of violence. There are dancing girls in bikinis and other outfits that show cleavage and lots of skin. There's a gay man who parties with other gay men and does drugs. There's talk of sex. There's talk of infidelity. A biracial couple. A couple is seen romping on a bed on a small video screen, so you don't really see a whole lot. Some profanity, including one F-bomb. There's a lot of blood, especially coming from people's eyes, which is always super gross. And then some guys flip the bird. So now some themes that are worth talking about are be careful what you wish for. And that's what one of the main messages of that TV show was. I was really young when I watched it, so I don't really remember that much, but I always loved the idea of a fantasy island where you could get a fantasy. But in every episode, from what I remember, there was always something worth considering, that if you get this wish, there are going to be consequences. And oftentimes we don't remember that or think about that when we want something. And if you're religious and you pray for something, remember there are consequences, and that oftentimes when you don't get what you think you want, that's your prayer being answered. But anyway, there's another message that Mr. Rourke says, played by Michael Pena. He says, regret is a disease. And that's a huge theme of the movie as well. Now, some things that I did like, speaking of Michael Pena, I really like him. I think he's great in comedies as well as dramas. Unfortunately, he probably should not have accepted this role, partly because the movie is just really terrible, but partly because he wasn't quite the right actor for the job. The movie was filmed in Fiji, which is beautiful, and that place has been on my bucket list for years. I want to stay in one of those huts that's right over the water. I'll do it this year. I've got some other trips planned, but I'll get there eventually. There are a few humorous moments, and they do attempt to throw in some humor. Most of the time it doesn't land, but there were a few times I chuckled. And then Tattoo, I won't give you any spoilers, but I was glad that there was some element about Tattoo because, of course, Tattoo was one of the favorite characters in the TV show. Now, the film is so bad that I can actually see that a lot of people having fun making fun of this. Like, once it goes to streaming, having it playing in your house while you've got a party, a bunch of friends over, and everybody's just eating and laughing at the movie, So in that case, they'll have a good time. The very last line in the movie is something that I liked, partly because the movie was over and partly because it was a wink to the original TV show, which I did like. Now, some things that I didn't like, and this list is a little bit longer. The cast was okay, but the characters were just mostly annoying and cringeworthy. You just don't really care much about any of the characters or whether or not they die. You don't get to know that much about them. There is some unfolding, but still you don't get to really know them to, again, care whether or not any of them live or die, which is sad. And then sadly, a lot of the acting moments were really bad. So that's too bad. The thing that most people are complaining about is that the plot is just dumb and messy and nonsensical. The rules keep changing on the island. So you're annoyed most of the time because you're like, well, if that's allowed now, then why wasn't it allowed back then? Or if that's not allowed, then why did that happen? So they just really needed to rework that script. It's cliched and predictable. And in fact, so predictable that you see the scares coming long before they happen. Somebody's backing up, you know, and so of course there's a bad guy behind them, or somebody looks in a room and they're looking over here, so of course the bad guy's over here. That kind of stuff. And then the music tells you something is going to happen, or the music stops so something is going to happen. There's no subtlety, really. There is also so much exposition, so many explanations. Everybody's trying to explain why this is so, or why that happened, or why they're feeling this way, or whatever. And then so much of the dialogue is just really dumb and needs to be reworked. There's some boring camera work and some just weird angles. And there's one scene that kind of goes like that. And you're like, okay, enough with the teeter totter. Or I guess that's a teeter totter. But anyway, you know what I mean? The twists and turns at the end of the movie are just exhausting and ridiculous because you have to change the rules on the island and change the plot even to make it work. And it still doesn't even quite work. It just needed more work. That's the bottom line. Now, that's it. That's my review. Be sure and visit moviereviewmom.com, where you'll be able to read some of the funny lines. Actually, I think I only wrote one funny line, as well as some interesting lines. Here, actually, I'll share one with you right now. Lucy Hale plays a character whose name is Melanie Cole, and she says, "That's why we ride roller coasters or see horror movies, right? To feel something." And so in this movie, you'll mostly feel annoyed, bored, frustrated. Anyway, be sure and visit moviereviewmom.com and check out the old TV show. It's on streaming. You can watch it. And I probably will think it's really dumb if I watch it now, but my memory of the TV show was that it was really good. Anyway, I hope if you watch this movie that you have a good time, laugh, don't overthink it. And I will see you next time. Bye for now.